In an age defined by constant connectivity and rapid innovation, the line between technological process and meaningful understanding has grown dangerously thin. From the seamless interfaces of our phones to the silent operation of surveillance systems and algorithmic governance, much of the machinery that powers modern-day life is designed to be invisible or incomprehensible. Kevin Kelly's What Technology Wants, James Bridle's New Dark Age, and documentaries like California Typewriter and Water of Life all grapple with this growing tension, though from starkly different vantage points. Kelly offers an almost spiritual celebration of technological complexity, seeing it as a form of evolutionary destiny. Bridle, by contrast, urges dark skepticism and caution, highlighting how obfuscation, information overload, and system opacity are not accidental features, but tools of power and control. The documentaries rooted in craft and slowness offer a third path, understanding through physical engagement and human touch. Together, these works reveal that our crisis is not simply technological, but epistemological. We are surrounded by tools we do not understand, and that lack of understanding has consequences. Kevin Kelly's central claim is that technology evolves like a living organism. In What Technology Wants, he describes the technium as a self-organizing force, a continuation of biological evolution into the cultural and mechanical domain. He argues that the increasing complexity of technology is not only inevitable, but desirable, pushing humanity toward greater interconnectedness and potential. For Kelly, it is not necessary for individuals to understand every facet of the systems they use. What matters is that the system drives progress. The technium wants life, he writes, increasing diversity, options, choices, possibilities, and freedom. There's an implicit trust here, almost utopian in flavor, that the future will sort itself out. Like the Adeptus Mechanicus of Warhammer, Kelly's views flirt with technological mysticism, where faith replaces knowledge and reverence for complexity stands in for comprehension. Bridle's New Dark Age offers a brutal counterpoint. Where Kelly sees a natural unfolding, Bridle sees collapse, masked by aesthetic polish. He argues that the more we digitize and automate, the less we actually understand. We are blinded by seeing, he writes, pointing out the paradox that more information often leads to less clarity. Surveillance algorithms, black box AI, and corporate secrecy aren't just byproducts of complexity. They are instruments of control. Bridle's personal anecdote about plane spotting, where he documents CIA rendition flights using simple observation, becomes a metaphor for reclaiming agency in a world dominated by invisible systems. Unlike Kelly, Bridle doesn't see ignorance as benign. It's a condition cultivated by institutions and markets that benefit from our inability to see the whole picture. This difference in framing is not just academic. It has real-world implications. Consider the rise of algorithmic decision-making in everything from policing to credit scoring. Kelly might argue that these systems, while opaque, ultimately optimize outcomes. But Bridle would counter that the opacity itself is the problem. If you cannot question the decision of an algorithm because you can't even see how it works, then justice, autonomy, and accountability erode. This isn't science fiction. As someone who's worked blue-collar jobs, it's easy to see how decisions made in data centers thousands of miles away ripple down into people's lives without explanation. It's the bureaucratic nightmare Orwell warned us about, just running on faster processors. The documentaries provide a useful third lens, rooting their perspectives in the tactile and the local. California Typewriter showcases people who cling to analog tools not out of Luddite stubbornness, but because they value what those tools represent, a level of transparency, presence, and control. When someone types on a typewriter, every part of the mechanism is visible, audible, and responsive. There's no cloud server deciding which word you meant to type. There's no background tracking or version history. You press the key and ink hits paper. That directness offers a kind of understanding that's absent in digital systems, which are efficient but inscrutable. Water of Life echoes this in a very different context. Master distillers speak about the slow, intuitive craft of whiskey brewing, how every barrel is unique, shaped by time, wood, and temperature. The process cannot be rushed or fully predicted, and that unpredictability is part of what makes the final product valuable. It's a kind of analog opacity, but one grounded in experience and trust. You may not know every chemical reaction, but you can taste the result, and you know the hands that made it. That's a far cry from the opacity where decisions are handed down without faces, reasons, or accountability. These films don't reject technology outright. Instead, they reject the notion that efficiency and complexity always improve life. They show that slowness, imperfection, and embodied knowledge offer their own kind of power, one that resists abstract nature and the detachedness of modern systems. This aligns with Bridle's call for new forms of attention and resistance, and stands in quiet defiance of Kelly's techno-optimism. All of this raises questions. What does it mean to understand technology today? Is it enough to use a tool skillfully, or must one grasp its internal logic? Bridle would argue that the latter is necessary if we are to live ethically and responsibly, while Kelly might say that understanding is distributed, that no single person needs to know everything as long as the collective keeps moving forward. But the documentaries suggest a third answer. They suggest that understanding can be experiential, even spiritual. When you restore a typewriter or distill a batch of whiskey, you're participating in a dialogue with the material. You don't need to diagram every component or reaction. You just need to be present, to feel the feedback loop between your hands and the object. Personally, this resonates. I've always been drawn to older machines, tools you can fix with a screwdriver and some patience. That kind of clarity feels rare now. In my job, there's something grounding about doing work, where the results are visible. You sweep a floor, and it's clean. It's not to say that I'm anti-tech. I play Cyberpunk 2077, and that world's a playground of dystopian systems. But maybe that's the point. We're already living parts of that future. And like Night City, we're often interacting with systems that are bigger and colder than we are. To be frank, the tension between opacity and understanding isn't going away. If anything, it's intensifying. Kelly wants us to embrace the ride. Bridle wants us to question who's driving. The documentaries remind us that we can still take the wheel, even if it's just in small ways. But in the end, maybe the real future lies in balancing all three. Embracing the tools that help us grow, interrogating the systems that shape our lives, and holding on to the crafts that keep us human.